Today we have a package that was mailed to us by Johnny from California, and Johnny sent a Mercedes-Benz key that needs repair. He sent in the board, and Johnny also sent some components to be soldered on that board. We do not know what those components are, but we're gonna find out. The package also contains some pictures . He has something circled here. I do not know what that is. And he circled this area here, which shows that this component has to go here. Alt, I do not know what alt is. This key looks different than this one, because this one here I see two components, and this one I only see one component. So I think what he's indicating is it can be soldered on to this component if there's only this, or if the key has two components, then it can be soldered on here. There's nothing else I can tell by looking at this picture. Again, he's showing that this component has to be soldered on here, and he has this circled here. You know what, let's take a look at the key to see what's going on, and then we'll compare it with the image here. He has this circled also. Let's go to the microscope and see how that board looks like, and then we'll come back to the image. Okay, so the first thing I see that this key was tampered with before. Look at this. There's a bridge on this component. I do not know what this component is. It could be a diode, it could be, I do not know. But there's a bridge. There's a solder blob connecting the two pins together. That's not right. So that's the first thing that we need to fix here. So according to the image that Johnny sent, there should be a white component on the front, and that's the infrared. It should be right here. And according to the image, we have to solder that coil, you know, what looks like a coil. It has to be soldered on here. Now on the image that he sent, there's two images. There's the alt and there's the other one. One of them has this component on, and one of them does not have this component on. And it shows that the coil has to be soldered on like this from here and here. We do not have to put the coil under this component because we do see some pins on the top that we can use. Let me do some quick testing and see how this circuit works. I'm going to put the multimeter in continuity mode. I want to see if we have continuity between this and this, and we do. How about this to this? We do. I do not know what this is here. Probably some solder blob that we need to get rid of. But let me test like this. It's continuous, and it's continuous. So this whole line here, this whole line here, it connects with those two pins all the way down here, and the same thing goes here. So now if we're gonna solder the coil, we can solder the coil to those two pins here, or we can solder the coil to those two pins here, or we can solder the coil from this side and from that side. So all those options will give us the same result because all of them are connected onto the same line. So according to the image, we have to solder the infrared component here. We have to solder the coil here. We'll take care of the bridge that I see here. And anything else? This side is clean. Flip the board. And everything looks good on this side of the board. Okay, it's good now. All we have to do is seat this component on the board in a way where it doesn't bother anything else. Okay, so that component is soldered on properly. Let's go ahead and solder the infrared component. We told the customer that the IR component that he sent is not good, and he said that he doesn't have another one and to try to solder this one on. So let's go ahead and do that. And the component was taken off another key, but the way it was taken off caused some physical damage to the component. We do not know if this component still works or not, but we're gonna try to solder it on anyway. This component has some plastic on it, so we're gonna try not to touch the plastic so it doesn't melt. The only thing that worries me are the sides of the components. We do not know if the sides are making a good connection with the inside. If they are, then this infrared component should work. If they're not making a good connection from the inside and there's any physical damage to the component itself, then the component is not going to work. In which case, I'm going to ask the customer that if he ever gets his hands on one of those, he can send it back to us and we will do the job at no extra charge. So that's it for this repair video. Anytime you are dealing with car keys, it's a little bit difficult to find parts because there are no circuit diagrams available to know what the name of the part is. So what most people would do is buy a salvaged board or a board that doesn't work for the same exact vehicle, and then we can extract and take components of the other board and put it on this board. And that's how it basically goes when trying to fix car keys. What I want to do is look, maybe if we can find a picture of the same key online, and this is the number for the key. I want to know what this part is. I think this could be part of the coil that was broken off by the customer. Now we soldered this piece of coil over this component, but I think we do not need to have this component on the board. This is not a component. It's probably part of the coil that was on here. So I just want to look up a picture for this same key and see if this is indeed part of the coil or not. So let's look at this image. This is actually not a component, so we can safely remove it. And the reason I want to do this coil is sticking out. So if the customer want to close the key, then he's not going to be able to because it's sticking out. And one moment.
Hi, doing well. I just called a little while ago about
Uh-huh.
fixing this laptop.
Sure. What's wrong with it?
So it won't connect to the internet, and
Okay.
it might be a virus or needing to update. He said over the phone 129.
Which one? Which Surface Pro? Okay, it's gonna cost you $210. All right. Thank you. Bye bye. So I'll give you a call tomorrow or send you a text message on this same number.
Okay, do we
All right.
pay now?
No, you can pay when you pick up.
It's my S6S is shattered.
Shadow, yeah, you can bring it anytime. Okay, just want to quickly take care of this laptop connector he's having problems with. So it goes in right now. And he's gonna put a piece of tape over it so it doesn't let loose. This is a screen for the yoga. Changing the LVDS connector. Customer ripped it while trying to change the screen. So what we're gonna have to do is, based on the image that we just looked at, the coil is soldered on properly because the pads on this piece that was left over is connecting with this part, and this is connecting with this part. So we can leave the coil as is, it's not a problem, and everything is gonna be good. But what's bothering me is this coil is sticking out from here. So if the customer tries to put this board back in the key holder and close the key may not close because of this. It's sticking out of the board. This coil should be inside the board. So by taking this component off, or this piece of plastic that was left over, by taking it off, we can solder those leads onto here, and that way we push the coil to the inside. And that's what I'm gonna do right now. Okay.
I just wondering, how much it cost for the remove EFI password for 2017 iMac?
Okay. Just one moment.
Yes, I'm sorry, I have last question.
And let's see if we can remove this component with just our soldering pen. Okay, we can use low melt solder to remove it. I do not want to use hot air because I do not want to heat anything up on this board. Almost every Mercedes-Benz key that we've worked on, solder on the board itself is almost like a low melt. It melts very quickly. So attempting to use hot air is not a good idea. That's it. Now let's solder the coil back on. Separate the leads a bit. And one moment.
Yeah, hi. I have a couple of questions. I have a broken...
Just like this. And add some solder onto our solder tip. And I do not have the film extractor on because my hands are both full. Okay. Are we gonna ever finish this coil? NorthridgeFix?
I just finished talking to you. I also have an S2. Very good.
Thank
I'll
you.
do that.
Sure.
I'll see you in the morning.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, so the coil is soldered onto this component now. We do not know if this component is an inductor, is it a capacitor, I cannot tell by the color, and I do not really care. All we care about is soldering this component in place, like we just did. Okay, and now the component is not sticking out anymore. Very good. Let's go ahead and clean, and we're gonna clean the board, and we're gonna check the rest of the board to make sure everything is good before we mail it to the customer. I always double check and triple check to avoid any device coming back to us after we ship it to the customer. If we ship it back to the customer and this key does not work, then it could be that the coil that the customer sent is not the right coil, or it could be that the infrared transmitter here may not be good. Customer would have to get the right parts. He can always send it back to us. We'll do the job again at no extra charge. We do not want to keep charging the customer every time he sends this over. If it doesn't work, we want to help get this working. That's why he's paying money, to get this to work. And he want to save. He doesn't want to go and buy a brand new key. That's going to cost him $300, $400. So let's check. All the components in place. Everything is good. We did not work on this area, but we're going to check it out anyway. Everything is good here. We disconnected the bridge from this component here. This is soldered on. It's not touching anything. All the components are good. Infrared component, I have a question mark over this, but the customer said to send it over anyway. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.